Hey my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century, which is by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." All right, so today's topic is, drumroll please, it is on the Virgin of Guadalupe Day in Mexico. Girl, hey Guadi. I love the name Guadalupe. Half the time that's what I call all of my friends because I'm a crazy bitch. Anyway, when I saw that this was happening this Sunday, I thought, oh, I should do a video. And then it made me think of my own story of losing my virginity. Now, you guys know, honey, I ain't no saint, but my experience the first time around was actually quite wonderful. So I was a late bloomer, so picture it. 1982 was actually when I kissed a man for the first time, but then it was interesting because then it took about a year before I actually went all the way. You know, so when I say losing my virginity, I mean like the actual act of penetration. That did not happen till I was 18. So at the ripe old age of 18, there was someone that I knew. I'm not going to mention names. I just would rather not. But someone that I knew, and we were like the same age, and like he was all smitten over me. And we were like, I guess you could say we were dating, but his family didn't know that he was gay. So I knew I was. I mean, girl, I had already been like fooling around, and I always knew I was gay. But he didn't want his family to know that he was gay. So he was like, you know, thinking that we were like this couple. And, you know, we would like hang out, whatever. So that particular, he lived out in Long Island. So I spent the night at his house. He has a sister. The sister was good friends with this guy and hot as fuck, who happened to be there, who was gay. But in the meantime, I couldn't like really say that I was because I couldn't blow his cover. So he like wanted me to play it off like I wasn't either. Could you imagine? Honey, I ain't that good an actor. Look at me. Helen Keller would know I was the queen. Anyway, so of course, this guy that was there was this like major attraction there, and he was spending the night. So because the family didn't know that that the son was gay, they had us both in the den. So you could see where this went. So then all of a sudden, like, you know, we were like talking or whatever, and we were like up talking all night. And at one point, I remember he even like pulled it out, and I was like, whoa. But we didn't do anything. So, but then fast forward at the next day, I was still living at home. I was living in the Bronx. We were all the way out in Long Island. He lived in Brooklyn, and he had a motorcycle. So he was like, let me drive you home. So I was like, oh, all right. You know, instead of me taking the Long Island Railroad. So I just remember, like, you know, we had already like done what we did the night before, which was really me just like playing with him a little. But I remember like being on the motorcycle and having my arms around him, and the whole motorcycle ride, I was like, oh my God, this man is so hot. And so we're like on his bike, and then like have the helmets on, and he turns back and he's like, do you mind if we make a pit stop at my house? I want to make sure that everything is fine. And I was like, oh, I see where this is going. I was like, yeah. So we end up going to his house, and, you know, and then we started like, you know, fooling around. So what was really kind of great was, I mentioned before, he was like rather big, like really big. And I had never done that before. So the whole point of this is I've always spoken about mind over matter. So here's the whole thing when it comes to like intercourse. If you really are not into someone, or if there's even the slightest hesitation where you really don't want it, trust me on this, it's gonna hurt. But if you are with someone, and even me, I was a virgin at the time. I had never ever done that. But I remember I was so turned on, and we did it like on his fucking floor. We didn't even do it on the bed. Fooling around on the floor, and I'm like straddling him, and we're like making out, and I'm all turned on. And then all of a sudden, you know, I sat on him, and it was like, honestly, it was like butter on toast. And like the whole ride leading up to it, I felt like I was like part of like a Harlequin romance novel, the way we were like on the bike and we're like going home. And even when we entered his apartment, it just all of a sudden we started kissing. So at that precise moment, it was like I said, it was like butter on toast. And I even said to him, I was like, wait a minute. I said, this is going to laugh. I was like, are you in me? Now, most guys probably don't want to hear that because that usually means they're small. That was not the case, but because I was so turned on, I almost didn't even feel it. And then he was like, yeah, look back. And I looked back and I was like, whoa, that bitch was in. And then at that point, then, of course, I felt it and it was magical. So I was grateful that my first experience with actual intercourse was that great. Because, you know, I have other friends. I was just speaking to one of my best friends today who I told him I was going to do this video. And he was, you know, unfortunately, when he was like very young, he was like molested. So like his first experience was not great. And, you know, so I'm fortunate that at least mine was, you know, because not everyone's is. Mine was. So, but then it was like the fucked up part about that was I really liked this guy, but because I had to like keep my friend's secret, and then I liked him and I was genuinely like, oh, I would love to date this guy. But I couldn't say anything. So then it was like a week later and he's in the car with my friend and he said, you know, oh, do you mind if I, you know, get together with James and date him? And then of course he was like, what? He's my boyfriend. So then like the cat was out the bag. So then my friend who thought we were a couple, he like got mad at me, stopped dealing with me. This one didn't want to deal with me. And I was like, dude, I didn't even want you and I want him and you just fucked my shit up. I was stupid for like just not, I should have been honest with him and said, listen, this is what's going on with this fool. I don't want him, I want you. But I didn't. So the interesting thing was that was in 1983 when I was 18. And for like my whole life, you know, I've always believed that like if you have unfinished business, it's great to bring closure to it. And I've always kind of felt like that's the one thing that I didn't have closure with. Now, the friend of mine from high school, we're friends. We're not good friends, but, you know, we've like, you know, we stayed friendly afterwards. This particular one, the one that I lost my virginity to, we've been friends on Facebook for about 10 years. Now, he's good friends with another best friend of mine. And I mentioned to her the story, and I was like, page 17 of my book, that's him. And she was like, what? So then, because now all of a sudden, he and I were friends on Facebook for the last 10 years, I kind of felt like, I want to say something. And she said to me, don't send him a text or email, because he was coming into town. They had a art thing this past April. And she was like, wait till he's in town and speak to him in person. So I did exactly that. Of course, it was so many years ago, like, I was like, do you remember? And as I started telling him the story, it was like, oh, and everything came back. So, and of course, you know, we're friends and we laugh about nothing's ever going to happen again. But I was so happy and so fortunate that that was really the only thing in my life that I kind of felt like was unsettled. And I was like, I'm never going to get the chance to close that chapter. So the fact that I had the opportunity to explain the situation, and two things that I got out of it was, first, I thanked him profusely for having my first experience be so wonderful. And then secondly, I got to explain myself and apologize, because I really kind of felt like, you know, I wish I would have been able to tell him the truth at the time, because who knows, maybe we would have dated. I mean, the fact that he asked my friend, do you mind if I date him? I mean, there was a strong connection there. You know, girl, I could have been a married woman for 38 years. Instead, I'm a single, fierce bitch. So anyway, that's the story there. And I was fortunate that the first time around was great. And I was fortunate that although it ended the way that it did, what are the chances that 38 years later, I would have the opportunity to speak to that person and wrap it all up? So, may not be Virgin of Guadalupe, but I was a virgin and I do use the name Guadalupe a lot. So here I am. All right, guys, that's my story. I hope, you know, my viewers, hopefully your first time around was a wonderful experience. Or maybe it wasn't, or maybe it was like, you know, not what you thought it would be, leave comments. Let's get dialogue going. All right, guys, thank you so much for indulging and being here with me. And so now after this video, the next one will be 2 weeks later, and that will be my Christmas video. So you're going to see all of this. Christmas out, honey, because I live for Christmas. All right, thanks for tuning in. Love you. Bye.